It was this trip that changed my life completely. In the summer of 2018, the three of us loaded up 3 cars and drove 3,000 kilometers across Japan. No itinerary, no hotel bookings, just a vague agreement to head north until the road ran out. We didn't know what we were looking for. That's the thing about your 20s. You have just enough freedom to do something spectacularly pointless, and just enough luck that it occasionally turns out to be the most important thing you have ever done. I just want to share with you, one single trip can give you that kind of impact, more than you could ever plan for. In my 20s, not too long after landing my first proper job in Tokyo, I bought a Lotus Elise. My dream car. As someone born in Japan and raised in England, a British car with a Toyota heart felt like a reflection of my own life. 2 places, one thing, somehow working perfectly together. And that car did something I didn't expect. It found me people. 2 friends, both car enthusiasts, who looked at an Elise and immediately understood why someone would make that decision. No explanation required. It wasn't long before one of them said, "We should do a proper road trip, Grand Tour style, all the way north to the end of Japan." So that's what we did. An Elise, a Cayman, and a Spyker C8. A hand-built Dutch supercar that had absolutely no business being on a road trip. Which was precisely why it was perfect. 3 cars, no plan, no hotel bookings. Just pointed north. We left Tokyo before sunrise. All we did on the mainland was push north. We had one goal: reach the edge of the mainland before sunset. The ferry took care of the rest. And as we crossed into Hokkaido, the nightscape of Hakodate was waiting for us. I had a rather distinct feeling that a remarkable journey was unfolding. The next morning we drove north, and then the road just opened. Unlike Tokyo, there were no traffic jams, no traffic lights, no buildings pressing in. Just asphalt, horizon, and the freedom to keep going. And somehow, it reminded me of the English countryside I grew up in. Not identical, but the same feeling. That the world had been given enough room to breathe. We drove north on walkie-talkies the way we'd always imagined. 3 cars, amazing roads, and a ton of commentary that was almost certainly unnecessary. Along the way, we fell in with the locals, who were also car enthusiasts, just like us. There was even another Elise in Old English white. We shared the same road until someone suggested sushi. Hokkaido sushi, as it happens, is not a suggestion you decline. The seafood here is, and I say this as someone who has eaten sushi in many places, genuinely in a different category. By evening, it was just 3 of us again. We found a hot spring hotel to rest for the night, until the next morning, we hit the road again. The next morning, we just drove. North, and north, and north. No detours, no plan beyond the next horizon. A road trip stripped down to its simplest possible form. 3 cars, 1 direction, and the quiet understanding that the further we went, the less we needed to say. We washed off 4 days of road somewhere along the way. Insects, dust, the residue of 1,000 kilometers. The cars looked almost embarrassed to be that clean again. And then we kept going. The light went, the traffic disappeared. The road narrowed, and then opened again, the way roads do when there's nothing left to interrupt them. It was nearly midnight when we reached the inn. We quietly turned off the engines and prepared for the last stretch. We woke up at the inn, parked the cars, and drove the last stretch to the Cape. There's a particular feeling that comes with reaching a place that you can't drive past. The road simply ends. And what's left is the sea, the wind, and the quiet sense that you've actually done the thing you set out to do. We stood there for a while. Nobody said much. 3 cars, 3 friends, on the northernmost point of Japan. Then we turned around and drove south on what I can only describe as the best roads I'd ever been on. Empty, wide, lit by a sun that didn't seem to be in a particular hurry. Somewhere on the way south, the Spyker suspension started to give. It held together just long enough, limping the rest of the way under its own power, refusing to be towed, until it rolled into the hotel car park in Sapporo and finally gave up. Right there, in front of where we'd be staying that night. As if it had been holding on just to make it indoors. To be fair to the car, it had been asked to do something it wasn't really designed for. A hand-built Dutch sports car 6 days into 3,000-kilometer road trip. It's not the kind of machine that responds well to being treated like a Toyota. But that's the thing about my friend. He has a habit of buying remarkable cars and then driving them into the ground. He doesn't collect them, he uses them properly. Until something breaks. It's a philosophy I find difficult to argue with, which left us with an awkward configuration. The Cayman and the Elise are both 2-seaters, and both passenger seats have been swallowed by a week's worth of luggage. So our friend stayed behind to sort out somewhere to leave the Spyker, and the 2 of us carried on without him. Down to a small port town just west of Sapporo. Narrow streets, old warehouses, the kind of place that rewards walking pace. He met us again at the ferry terminal. Flying home from Sapporo the next day, but determined to see us off first. A slightly absurd image, given that he was the one who had to abandon his car here. The ferry took us overnight to Sendai. From there, we drove the rest of the way back to Tokyo. The trip was over. The cars went back to their parking spots, and I went back to work. In the years that followed, I did other road trips, plenty of them. Kyushu, Tohoku, the Japan Sea coast. Grand tours, all of them, with good cars, good friends, and good roads. But none of them came close. It wasn't that other places weren't beautiful, they were. It was that I'd already been somewhere where the world had enough room. And once you felt that, really felt it, everywhere else starts to feel slightly too small. I'd be sitting in traffic, on an expressway I'd driven 100 times before, and I'd find myself thinking about that road again. The one that didn't end. The silence of the Cape. Someday, I'd think, I'd like to drive it once more. That was the extent of it. A wish, not a plan. Something to keep in the back of a drawer. The idea of actually living up there, of moving my whole life north, hadn't even occurred to me yet. The house I live in now sits in a small town just outside Sapporo, the main city of Hokkaido. Quiet, open, the kind of place where the sky takes up most of the view. There's a garage, the Elise lives in it, the same car that started all of this. And there's a piece of land out the back, with nothing on it yet. For now, just space. Possibility kept open on purpose. A few years of designing my career made this possible, so I moved. These days, I drive out of my garage and onto the kind of road I spent a week searching for all those years ago. The silence hasn't changed. The difference is, I don't have to drive 3,000 kilometers to get here anymore. I just have to open the garage door. People ask me how I ended up in Hokkaido, and I usually give them the designer's answer. Land prices, remote work, cost per square meter of living well. But the real answer is simpler. In my 20s, I drove to the end of the road. I found a silence that felt like home. And it took years to build a life that could meet me here. This channel is about that. About designing a life around the things that actually matter to you. Not the image of a good life, the conditions of one. If you've ever stood somewhere and felt, just for a moment, that everything was the right size, that's not nostalgia. That is a design brief.